to order at 9:02. We're gonna review the rules and regulations.
So I think first we have to say that we don't have was unable to prepare the minutes. So the minutes will be approved at the next meeting.
Yes. Okay, and Rob did up a whole new outline for the rules and regulations
Thank you.
and a bunch of definitions.
Looks great.
Yeah, it looks good. I like the setup of it.
And like I said at the very top, I was shamelessly stealing from other cemetery commissions.
So do we need to reword some of the stuff?
Well, it probably wouldn't hurt to go
You wanna start on the first
Well,
page and go
just-
quick?
quickly, just kind of
Yeah.
through.
We have the table of contents. Is there any other definitions active?
So the table, I mean, if we add something, you
It's
know,
easy to.
today, it's easy to just throw that in there, but those were just the generals. And we moved the administration,
To the top.
yeah, and then I tried to, Robin, was there anything about your administrative office? Was that okay?
The administrative director.
I mean, I left email off of there.
Yeah, we probably should put the email in for now.
Okay.
Only because a lot of people do send me emails. There's also on the, DPW also has a page called Harwich Highway, in case somebody goes there by accident, that redirects and sends an email to my email address. So if somebody who didn't know that we had a cemetery administrator, say they were from New Jersey or something, and they went to the highway department, there is a cemetery page, and it says, you click on here to send them a message. It goes to DPW and goes to me, so I'm covered and copied on it. And usually it's questions like, I'm trying to locate my grandmother's grave, or what do I do if I want to use an older lot for internment? But sometimes it's for maintenance, so they need to see it, so.
Chatham, their commissioners are listed.
Okay, so I think we could probably put in the rules to be approved, list of commissioners, and when it gets approved, then we can put it in the rules rather than list your names, because anytime any of you would change, then we would have to go back and have it amended.
Well, and that's what I was saying, I don't think we should be in the rules.
Okay. But maybe on the cover page, so all the rules are approved.
So does changing the cover page require town hall, town meeting?
I wouldn't think
every
so, because that's just
year or
our.
two?
Yeah, because that's not the rules. When it starts with the rules and regulations, could be page 1,
Yeah.
but the cover page, I think, could change.
I think so.
Everybody like that idea?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
All right, so let's back up then, cover page. So we're gonna have, I kinda like, what was it, Concord you had out there?
Yeah, it had a whole,
Oh, yeah, right there on the top.
yeah. It's got
You
the
could-
town,
So
the town seal.
that'd be very easy to edit, copy, paste.
Yeah, so town sale,
So the seal, title, mission statement at the bottom, and then list the commissioners.
okay?
And you won't be on the cover, Robin, because
Yeah.
you'll be under your admin office.
Sure.
But we're not are we gonna do contacts for us, or just list our names? Because we are on the webpage under Cemetery Commission.
Yeah, and they would
But
call,
there's no links there for us.
but they would call the commission office. And they'd
Right.
contact us, because I really don't want to give out my cell phone number to.
Yeah,
Right now, I really don't want to expose,
Right.
unless the town wants to give us all
email
email
addresses.
addresses.
Your personal email address.
That's, we have to log on somewhere, and I don't know how
Okay.
they set it all up. All right, so but no contact.
Right. And then then, next page would be the table of commerce, or table of contents, which we can amend as we go through all this.
Okay.
So rkelly@town.harwich.mass.us?
Yep.
I'll add that on there. The hours of operation, I don't know where I was looking for that.
So I'm in the office early, so, I'm probably in my office at 7:30.
Yeah, somewhere I saw 7:30 to,
8 to 3
yeah, to 3:30. I mean, what do you want to
Yeah.
publish is,
So normally I'm out of there at 3:30.
okay, so,
Yeah.
well,
Keep
I
that
mean,
at 7 to
that's
7:30, 3:30.
Yeah,
your bosses, what do they
yeah,
want?
yeah, yeah.
So 7:30
So
to,
sometimes I'm there till 6 o'clock at night.
right, well, on your
You're right.
job review,
Yep,
there was the sentence that talked about 24/7, 365
You're right.
content, but we don't want, I don't want to publish that for you.
right.
But if people were calling, they would leave a message, and I think I said, yeah, I said, outside these hours, please leave a message at the phone number above.
Yep,
And that way you can screen, answer as appropriately outside of your office hours.
okay.
I mean, you guys like that idea
Yeah.
for Rob? Okay.
Usually if it's on the, I usually do pick up the phone,
Yeah,
because I never know if it's a grieving
because
family.
you're a type
And
A,
if-
hardworking.
But if it's, and if it's something that just requires some, me to pull a folder and do a survey, I'll just say, I'll get back to you during regularly scheduled hours. If it's something where they say, my mother passed away and we're trying to make arrangements at the funeral home, I usually have to get them information
Do something
within
quick.
24 hours so that they can, either, most of the time, believe it or not, I know where the lots are, because they usually call me when somebody's sick, so I usually already have it pulled and surveyed, which is great when people pre-plan. So when you don't get the pre-planners, or, somebody calls and they said, we've had a recent death, was unexpected. We don't own a cemetery lot, so we have to purchase one. What cemeteries are available? Then I tell them all the cemeteries, and they're like, it's just, sometimes can be overwhelming, too
Well,
much.
and see, that's why I wanted to do that map,
Yeah,
and I think we could add that to the website
Right.
next year, and especially with the street maps.
yep.
Good morning.
Hey, Tommy. What about the holidays? Is that list correct?
That's what includes following New Year's, President's Day, Memorial Day. I always work Memorial Day, and I always work Labor Day. I work Memorial Day and I work Veterans Day. Because we usually have services both those days. But I would actually leave it in there, because I'm not in my regular office, I'm at the cemetery.
Right,
So if they tried to get me at my office, the building is physically closed.
okay.
Yeah. I think that looks good.
And the fees, I just copied that link right from the website.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Because that could change. We don't want to have to change them all every time.
Do you want to jump ahead to markers and stuff since Tom is here?
Oh, Tommy, that's your packet,
Okay, thanks.
in case you need to refer to what we're,
Do you want me to just sit here?
If we can cover the headstones and monuments with Tommy, then he can get off,
Yeah, thank
go
you.
back to his probably busy schedule.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Happy to be here.
So that is C.
See,
It's like on the next to last page.
so there's a whole bunch
Yeah,
of,
so,
there's the original
Section
rules, Tom,
C.
so if you want to put those side by side, sometimes that helps.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which you helped me write originally, those ones.
you just want to make sure, we don't want to overcrowd the grave spaces, make it easy for maintenance. And we've had some people interested in mausoleums on the
So
property
mausoleums is a big one for us, Tom, so we have to figure out if we are going to allow them and what you think the specifications would be for a regular above-ground to, that's basically, both the requests that we had were for an above-ground to full, what are they called? What is that called when it's two full burials in the mausoleum?
It's just 2 units.
2 units.
Each space is called a unit, so
Okay.
yes. So there's I mean, shall I speak, or do you have
Yes,
questions?
please.
Okay. So I've done a couple of them, but certainly not here.
Yeah.
It's not due to the expense. It certainly isn't something that a lot of people choose to do, but when they do choose to do it, it's really, it can really add to a cemetery, just in appearance, and it's kind of a nice way to do it. And once again, you're honoring somebody's desire to be fully buried, but not below ground. So it's an option. It's something that I think needs to be available, because it's an option for people. And everybody has a different idea of what this should be. A lot of people, if you come from the south or from overseas or something where it's common, then, you know, it's an option that people should have. You have plenty of new room, especially in East Harwich. And a lot of the cemeteries I do a lot of work in, back especially when I had the vault company, New Bedford, Fall River, Boston, you know, you keep it along the back lot line because nobody wants to be behind you and be lost. But it really looks nice, and it can border a wooded area or something like that. So to me, it just makes sense. You have the lots available. A single dimension, it's typically, each unit is typically 4 by 8. However, they come on bases. Usually you have a platform. So at minimum, it's, you know, 4.5. It's oversized of one particular lot.
So you need two
So you would
lots.
need at least 2.
2 full-body grave spaces?
Left to right, yeah, and if you put it bordering the back lot line per se, then you don't need to sell them 4. You don't need to take more lots than, you know, because you do have some buffer land, I imagine, behind.
Right.
From front to back, it's not, it's more or less construction and moving around and getting to that area that's of concern, so.
So the
It
other,
doesn't usually go real deep. It doesn't usually go 10, 12, 14 feet. It's usually 8 or 9 feet and then forward.
okay, so the only other concern is, so say, we know if you put it in, it's gonna be a quality unit. What should the specifications be when they purchase it? If they purchased an above-ground unit from you, per se, is there a time frame where you have to do maintenance, or is it, does,
All right, well, depending on the material, like the Hadis is right here,
Yeah.
and that's the most recent one, in
Right.
Harwich. Because it's a gray granite from Vermont and it's unpolished, it needs to be cleaned every couple of years, but that's her. I mean, she likes it perfect, so every couple of years I go out and clean it, open the door, clean the cobwebs, et cetera. So maintenance becomes the buyer,
right,
you know. Most of the time they're used with polished granite, so they're
Yep.
not an eyesore. They look really nice. And if people are investing the money, that's typically the way to go. Most of them are pre-built. When they get here, they are just taken in by a crane and dropped on spot.
okay,
So when they're put together well.
okay.
At the factory or wherever
Yeah,
it's
exactly,
made.
yeah.
Now, is there foundation work that needs to be done for
Huge
those?
foundation work, yeah. It can either be almost like a house foundation and you border it, or it can be one solid pour.
Like
Yeah,
a
'cause you
slab?
just don't, yeah. Well, it's a slab, but it's feet deep. It's, you know,
Yeah.
bringing in a cement truck and
Like
things
a
like that. Yeah, so you can, depending on the size of it, you either pour a surround or you just pour a big slab.
I think I would prefer them to pour a big slab, because what if you have a failure on one of the corners? So, I mean, I think
Well, the weight is evenly,
distributed, but, I mean, stuff settles or something happens, and I think
Yeah.
there'd be less of a failure if it
yeah,
was,
especially if you took out a lot of trees and stumps
Right.
and stuff in that area, then it certainly makes sense, but, you know, then again, if somebody puts one it's 4 or something, it's double wide, it's 8 feet, you're certainly not gonna pour.
Slab for that.
Right.
And the foundation's gonna go down below the frost line, I would imagine,
Foundations are usually 4 feet on something like that.
with a good sized footing and stuff. Would that have to go in front of the building department to get permits for that?
Everyone, the ones I've done, no.
No.
Goes in front of the cemetery and they give you permission to do it, you do it. So no, nothing's ever gone.
And do people set up funds for the continued maintenance of those throughout the?
Typically not, typically it's a family thing. Like I said, it needs no more maintenance than the stones I put in for families. I mean, you have to clean them. Cape Cod is brutal on stones, as you know, because
Yeah.
our cemeteries, even 4, 5, 6-year-old stones get lichen and moss, and it's just Cape Cod. You put that same stone in Boston, Connecticut, New York, it looks fine.
Fine forever.
Yeah, so it's kind of like our houses and our bones, you know, you live here, you age quick.
You take the beating.
Yeah, age quick. So that's really, like I said, they're pre-made and they're made to ship, so they're put together well. They're not just, you don't come here on site and
Build
decide
it.
to build one.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So we do have somebody who is very interested in putting one in soon. So it'd be tougher to put it in existing, kind of like if we try to put one in Island Pond. We have one in Island Pond right now, but it is in the back of a street abutting the wood line. So in a little,
I don't know that you have enough lot space in
Right.
Island Pond. You can designate a cemetery if you choose. You can say,
Right.
you know what, Evergreen, East Harwich is really set up. It's level ground.
yeah,
We have the space. A lot of cemeteries do that.
yeah,
Just line the back wooded line with it.
Yeah, in doing so, it's very important that now you address, okay, if we're going to do that, then we have to leave an 8 or 9 foot wide space in front of that for trucks to get in and
Cement
out,
truck
and
to get in
maintenance
there.
and burials and limousines and stuff
Right.
like that.
so we do
So you
in.
can't sell lots right
So-
up to it. You
Yeah,
need to
so
show-
in Evergreen with the design, every 2 rows is a 10-foot wide grass path. That we,
Right, but how do you get there?
so you'd have to come in from the side and drive up,
As long as there's an
yeah.
entrance
So
or
that
an
comes
exit.
through all of the lots, because
Yeah,
if we needed to get a hearse in,
right.
they can't drag them all the way across all the other grave spaces,
Yeah.
especially if they're all full in the front.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not that deep anyway. As
Right.
much as it's wide, at your widest point, it's still not that bad.
Right.
So that's the only thing, is you just need an access for a while. And then as it fills up, you can work
Right.
in front of it. So that would be about the only other thing I would concern myself with. But don't forget too, to set these things, they're cranes that they come in and just hoist. They can hoist at distance
Yeah,
if need be, yeah. So they're pretty big. Is that it for mausoleums?
I think, do you guys have any other questions for now?
No, just the foundations and do you get a lot of call for that or?
No.
No, very seldom because of the expense.
Well, that's what I was wondering, how much space do we designate for this?
So, if we just put them against, we do have some lots available on the back section right now in the Nickerson section, but we have the Ellis and the Eldridge section that are wide open right now. There's nothing in those. So, if we want to, at some point, maybe we look at those ones which don't have anything in front of them and just sell in those sections, specifically the back rows for each one of those, to have mausoleums. And then once those are full, then open up the front area. Because we have so much space over there. We have over 3,000 lots in that new expanded section.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of space. So it's not like we'd be taking up space that's, we could sell in the Nickerson section. We could go out there and view it, see how it's laid out, or we could do them in the corners. We have those 2 corners that at one point we were thinking about doing cremation lots in front of, which we haven't, and at one point we talked about putting a niche wall in. I would prefer to do mausoleums on one of them at least, and then if we ever do a niche wall on the other side, And we could almost have, you know, on this side probably mausoleums, and then on this side, we could have like
The cremation.
a niche wall and something like that, so that it's kind of aesthetically.
We
kinda
probably don't
similar.
need to set aside a whole bunch of spots for it, because there's not,
No,
No.
not right now, but, you know, your job is also looking out for the future.
we should see what's happening.
And the other thing is people, Tom put in this beautiful memorial that then was on the cover of one of the magazines, in the trade magazines. I can't remember which family it was, but anyways, that big, huge granite one. Since he put that one in Evergreen, the people who have come after that have, you know, people are trying to keep up with the Joneses. So
That's what happens. Sometimes you put one in and other people say, hey, that's real nice. I never, it's
now,
very,
it was
very
something
true.
I would never have thought of, but now that I see that, maybe that's what I want. You know what I mean? And I think it could change once one gets installed.
So the minimum size lot we should set aside is just a 2-width lot, just one
Yeah.
depth, because it's against the back of the cemetery?
Yeah, but that's, you're talking if that's a single space, if someone comes to you and says, I want 4, you know, double stack, right, left, or something like that, then you double it, so, yeah, it all depends on,
Yeah.
What do these run?
so,
Ballpark.
a single one, the one I most recently sold was, when I sold it for, I don't know, 35, and that was 5-6 years ago. It's probably up to 50, that same exact one. Nice pink granite and nice mahogany color and all polished, but, oh no, you're talking
Lots of money.
hundreds and hundreds of thousands to millions.
Wow.
Oh, in a minute. It depends, you know, people want to take it to the next level, and, again,
Well, that's kind of
It's
the
old
era
money.
we're in right now.
yeah, no, it's, but you'd be surprised. You go to New Bedford, you go to Fall River, and where there's a lot of ethnicity, usually there's based on this is how it was when I grew up or where I was from. And you'll be surprised if people want something, they'll find a way to get it. So it's out there. But again, it's an option, and you should have an option for everybody. Every town member should have an option of saying, this is how I want to do it, or et cetera. And again, you put one, then maybe a couple more might
So
show up
we
over
do have
time.
one lady who absolutely 100% wants it. And, for her and her husband. And she went to Dennis first. So she is a non-Harwich resident. So she would have to pay the non-Harwich resident fee for the lot to begin with. And then she's gonna pay for that on top of it. And she, I think, has already reached out to Janet, because I gave her their contact information. And she just wants to move forward with it. So it is something that probably is going to happen.
Is there ever, so picture these along a back border. Is
Yeah.
there ever any issue with the abutters? You know, the homes, properties outside of the cemetery that are now faced with this wall of,
So most of the, especially in Evergreen, we planted 113 Leyland cypresses to block out our butters' view of the cemetery. So those trees are now becoming very mature. I mean, it took them a while to get established. I was surprised. I thought they would take off right away, but they're finally starting to grow, and they are making a nice enclosure around the cemetery, so that if they looked in, even in the wintertime, they're not gonna see the memorials.
but I mean, in your experience, you've never heard of a
No, nobody's,
controversy, conflict, somebody
No.
arguing, yeah, well, that's good, I just,
no.
Sounds good, and we all set with the other sizes, the headstones? You see any issues with any of that stuff?
Yeah, well, I brought something myself that I
Oh, good. Making it easier for us.
I brought a
We like that.
couple of suggestions and ideas from doing this on a daily basis for 33 years. So, as we know, certainly, times have changed, and we are doing so many more cremations, okay? Now, the number of full burials is still happening at the same, almost the same percentage rate. However, the population hasn't increased, so percentage-wise, it just feels like cremations are really, really where it's at. In town, Holy Trinity Church has a 1,000-person cremation wall that I've been running for 16 years, and I'd say maybe 500-600 of them are even sold. I mean, a lot of them have sold. So then you have Holy Trinity Cemetery. Then you have in East Harwich, the Lutheran Church has 4 walls now, small, low, but again, they're accommodating cremations. And all of your cemetery, well, Island Pond has its own cremation section, and I think that's it to date. Everything else is basically a full grave.
Evergreen has a cremation section
It does.
in the older side, yeah.
Oh, the older section, yeah, by the flagpole, right, okay. So, that being said, if we talk Island Pond, we're talking roughly a 3-foot by 4-foot lot, correct? The spaces?
For cremation?
Yeah.
Yep, 3 feet by 4 feet.
Right. On that particular lot, you can put 2 2-foot by 1-foot markers, which is the size of a military marker and
Yep.
probably the most common marker we sell. When you first began, I think there were 8 people could be buried there, and now it's down to 4, correct?
2. When we sell new ones, it's 2, because most of them only put 2 in them.
I know
So when
that.
we sell new ones, you only can put 2 people in. And it says for 2 cremains on their deed in the cremation section. But if you had a full-body burial lot, it'd be a different story.
No, and I get that.
And I think it's
But I
because
get-
we were talking, so if we had 2 people buried in there, one was a veteran and one was a non-veteran, we could have a veteran's military marker and another marker for each person. So the lot is only 3 feet by 4 feet, and it just barely, well, I think, we want to have some grass space around, so that's
Okay.
that.
So, which leads me to my next question. If you have a lot that's a single grave lot today, and I know they vary a little bit, but typically it's 4 foot by 10 foot.
4 feet by 8 feet for the majority of them, except for,
Well, that's
except for,
changed too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're kind of doing this on the fly. So even in your rules, it says 4 foot by 10 foot. So,
yeah, but if you go to Mount Pleasant and all those other cemeteries that we inherited, Pine Grove, they're not by 10 feet. So new ones that we sell, yes. Older grave spaces that people have inherited or purchased pre-2000, they were only 8 feet.
okay. So that being said, you basically, you have more than twice the lot size, yet you only allow 1 marker
No, we allow 2.
on a single grave.
They can have an upright and a flat flush marker or 2 markers.
Right, and right. So, but my problem is, and you just stated it, say you have 2 veterans or 3 veterans, because you allow 4 people to be buried on that plot. I think that, it hasn't really happened yet, but I think that could be something to come back and bite us. As far as limiting the amount of veterans markers or markers in general. Now, it's very difficult to fit 4 persons' name on a flat marker. And even if you do, there's just no space to personalize it. There's no loving wife or mom or something like that. So I think what we're doing is we're kind of over-managing in an effort to have maintenance, and that's the biggest thing I need to discuss. But to worry about maintenance or too many markers or aesthetically how it's going to look. If you go surrounding towns, Dennis allows 2. Brewster certainly, I think they're into 2. The private cemetery, you can have 4.
So they have,
Orleans, you can have 4.
they have an upright and then 2 per grave space?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, not, and it doesn't happen often, but when there's a need and when people come and express it to me, I'm the one who has to say, well, I'm sorry, let's work on squeezing a lot into a little space. And what's difficult is all the while, I know on a small little burial plot, you can get 2 of these, yet on this larger expanse, you can only have 1. And that's difficult because it really holds people back from expressing. They do it, and they adhere by the rules, and it's fine. But in my personal opinion, it's fine only because they've been told that this is all you can do because we want it to be easier to maintain. Which, if it's a flat marker, there's really no maintenance to it anyway. They're driven over, So that's a big concern. That would be the one thing that I find troubling to pass on to people. I think that's kind of overregulated right there. And I'll skip right down to maintenance because it's a good time to talk about it. The fact that we don't have any help, and we only have, when I started, we had, I think, 4 summer people and 3 or 4 full-time cemeterians. I mean, I was with Harold Gonzalez the other day talking, and I remember he had 2 or 3 guys under him, and it was a different time.
And less cemeteries.
Yeah, but help is always gonna be an issue.
Yep.
And if you talk to certain people, we don't pay enough of a wage. We're not an attractive enough entity for somebody to say, I wanna make my livelihood taking care of a cemetery or mowing or weed whacking. So it is, it's a challenge, and it always will be. However, that's the job description. And we either find a way to get people to do it, or we do what we have been doing, which is every time we need to, we do a mass DPW hit to each cemetery and go in and do cleanups, go in and do mowings before Memorial Day, Veterans Day. It will get done. My problem is, and I'm seeing it in many cemeteries, is using that as the reason behind the rules. It's a maintenance thing. Well, the stones are already there, all we're doing is adding to them, and we're adding to them as we add land. So I really have a difficult time explaining to certain people that you can only do this or that because of the guy mowing or weed whacking. That's troublesome to me. Always has been, always will be. And they were thinking about making East Harwich all flat. I remember at the old highway barn by the fire station, I went into that meeting because they were like, oh, we're just gonna do flat. And I looked at them and I said, there's 5 of you here on this board. And I sold 4 of you monuments over the last 5, 6 years. Raise your hand if you chose a flat one.
And no one did.
Nobody did. So then they all went, okay, we'll do upright monuments. So it is always gonna be an issue. Maintenance always will be an issue. But I think we're holding the wrong people at bay by saying, you can't do this, you can't do that because of maintenance. I'm kind of, my personal feeling, but I'm the one who deals with these people.
We're just trying to stop like headstones from being here.
And you
Try
know
to
what,
keep
you have
some kind of symmetry to it.
you have a really good rule in place about that, about lot size and what you're allowed. That will keep people, but the other thing is take it right around. And you tell me what cemetery stones are on top of each other. They're not. Especially, nobody here really tries to outdo the other person in our cemeteries. I think if you drive around, that's pretty evident. Nobody really wants to come in. The boulder or the big monument you spoke of,
Yeah.
Holland.
Yeah.
Now that's on an 8-grave lot, and I had to make that thing tall enough and wide enough to fit 32 names. So there's this big monument that's this big, again, less than half of the width of the lot and all, and it looks beautiful. But on the back, the lettering's this big, so I can fit 32 names. So, what I'm saying is that's probably the extreme case. You don't usually see
Monuments that size.
stuff like that. Or you do on an 8-grave lot, because,
Yeah.
but where you can fit so many people, he just said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So that's, again, just an example.
And they chose also to do a flat flush marker per each grave
For
space.
each grave, at the foot of each one is
Yeah.
a thing. So again, on big lots, you'll see big stones, but on small lots, they're all, if you go by my yard, everything is a
Yeah.
3-foot base, 2.5-foot stone. Most lots are 8 feet wide, it gets centered, so you have 2.5 feet on each side, then the next people have 2.5. And they, aesthetically, I think it looks smart, I think it looks good. I don't see anybody putting anything so close. Single lots, it's usually a small slant or a really narrow stone that's 2-foot wide base. So I don't see as much as that, and maybe you might take a walk around, but you have to admit, Robin, we're pretty open, and that's all Cape cemeteries, really, as you drive around and visit different places. It's the old sections that were, because that was common for, each person had a tablet, a slate tablet, or a marble tablet or something, so I think you're protected by having that, half the width of the lot. That'll always keep that from happening. But I think we're all set on that. And then that kind of brings us to my second question or second item. Many of these rules over time have certainly changed, and it's great because under Robin's care, rules have been formulated and approved, and as we saw with the cremation section going from 8 to 4 to now 2, we do realize that things need to be adjusted over time. For better or for worse, whatever. I think we're kind of coming to a close, but in Island Pond, in Mount Pleasant, in certain sections where larger family lots were purchased years and years and years ago, a lot of people are falling victim to the one lot, one deed, one stone. And so we've had people who've said, well, can I put a bench on the back graves, the back 4 graves, or the back 5 graves? Can I put another? My own family, we have 10 graves. The front is full, the stone's in the middle, and all the names appear on the back. That stone is full. So we have basically 5 empty lots along the back, and I have no space to put any other names. So what's troubling is, it's uncles who, were veterans, and then their wives were cremated, so they were kind of put in one, and I made bronze plaques for each of them with both names, and, I've done what I've done, but it's just an example of, we have all this space, and now we're bound by not being able to put another stone for my brothers and sisters and their families who choose to go there. So, again, there's plenty of room all around. The next closest stone is 20 feet away, maybe more, 25, but we're bound that you can only put one stone there. And on larger lots that were purchased years ago, again, I have trouble looking people in the eye and saying, I'm sorry, this is it. This is what you have to do. That's tricky, and you've been faced with that too. And so that would be something I address. If you have a larger lot and it's full and you're in the middle, in certain cemeteries we allow benches if you buy 4 lots, and I guess it's based on deed.
So we did change in the rules, and we put, except for a 4-grave or larger lot, and then we're gonna, in the older cemeteries. So we did add that to there, so if somebody came in and there was an exception, like they had a 12-grave lot, we'd want them to mirror if they already have one upright, and we've done that before in a couple of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we made certain things, but it's not across the board.
Right, so if it's 4 graves or larger, that's where we're gonna address it, and not anything
Right,
smaller
and
than
that makes sense, because if you do in front or back or side to side.
Yeah.
Just
Because if
gives
it's
people
too deep,
options.
there's room to put a headstone here and something centered on the
Yeah.
back row.
So if somebody came and purchased 4 lots individually, they could each get a stone. But if somebody came and bought all 4 together, you can't, you can get 1. And I think that's troubling, and that's
Well, they
more-
can get,
more
they
pressure on
could,
the
they can
person
get
selling.
2, depending on how it's laid out. So if it was 4 in a row and they wanted to do 2 over 2 and then 2 over in the other 2, they could do 2. But they couldn't, so each individual one, yeah, I know what you're saying. Because Rob has bought that same thing. So Rob bought 4 lots in a row.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Yeah. Are yours in a row or front to back?
I hope they're in a row.
I can't remember. We'll have to look at them. Well, you have your layout.
But things change, and families are different, and people go through different things, and so that's why I just hate to remove the opportunity for people to grieve the way they want to and do what they want to do. I think that's challenging. That's a difficult position to be in, personally.
So you gotta humor the new guy here. So 2 grave spaces. Well, let's take yours. Yours is what, 4?
My family's is,
Yeah, your family's
Ten.
is across?
no, 5 in the front, 5 in the back.
Okay, well, shrink that up for me just for a second. Just say it was 2 and 2. Or, I
Yes.
mean, 1 and 1, two side by side. What would you like to do if that was what you had? So you have the one stone, and then what?
Centered.
Because you say there's not enough.
Okay, yeah. So say we're buying, say,
So you're denying, saying people can't put extra, that's.
say the Jones family comes in, and they see Robin, and then they say, okay, we're only, we're gonna buy 2 graves,
Mhm.
my brother and I, and then, you know, what have you. If they buy it with the one deed, they were putting a stone in the center,
Right, okay,
okay? If they decided, well, I want my family to have 4, and you want your family to have 4, and we can't agree on a stone or something, can we each have our own? And to date, it's been no, you get 1 stone and you center it. That's on a very small scale, next to never happens. I'm talking on a bigger scale, when you have 4 in the front, 4 in the back.
Okay.
6 in the front, 6 in the, big. You've put the stone in the middle, you've done what you've done, but you've exhausted the space on the stone.
okay.
Now, we should be able to put a stone in the back. And in many situations, we haven't been able to. Now, based on what Robin just said, that's a correction that was made or something, I wasn't aware of it, but,
Yeah, so that's one of the things we've been addressing.
okay.
So, and I did talk about that, because a lot of people, especially in Evergreen, they did that exact thing. They put a, you know what I'm talking about, where they put the monument in the back, the bench in the middle, and they had 4 grave spaces. So that, we're trying to address with that, so
That's-
people who do.
Yeah, and that needs to be, especially in older cemeteries.
Right,
Because we've had people come and say, okay, I have a lot of visitors, I'd like to put a bench. You can't. That's tough, when there's 4 lots in the back, 4 in the front. So again, if you're addressing that, and that's a point that's been taken
yep.
and under
So we
advisement,
already
that's
put
good.
it in, it's highlighted in yellow, Tom.
No, that's good.
It's one of our changes.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad
That's
to
why
see
we're
that.
going through all of these things, because things change over years, and
100%, and I get
we'll
it.
probably have to revisit this again, way down the road again.
Right.
Yeah,
If we're all still
Yeah.
here, or someone else can do this.
that's right, and that's why I'm just,
So a couple of the other things that we added, Tom, were in multiple lots, markers that are not to exceed 50%, which we've always had.
Right.
And we are putting in the rules that it has to have a base of foundation. You always install your stuff correctly, but we have other vendors who deal with the town, and they'll just go in and drop it right on the
yeah.
lot, and then we'll come back 5 years from now, and you can't see it because it's sunk down so deep now, and the grass is growing over it, and then we have to edge it out, and it's just causing a nightmare. So we want some type of a base or a foundation. Do we need to expand on that, or just say base and foundation, or
Well,
foundation?
there's 2 ways to look at it. Years ago, there were big cement foundations, and then
Right.
people would put the markers in wet, okay, and then the stone would be adhered to this foundation. Well, you go, years and years pass, and just like your own driveway, the grass, you blink
Grows
and
over, yeah.
next thing you know, you're taking 8 inches of grass back because the thing
Yeah.
has grown. And that's what can happen to these cemetery markers too. The problem with pouring a cement foundation and setting the stone, and you certainly don't make enough to go back and do 2 trips. You wanna go out there, pour it, do it, get it done, and move on, is that you need to raise that stone an inch. You're out there with the chain fall, and you're digging around, and you're trying to hoist this 400-pound beast.
Up.
So because of that, most towns don't do foundations for markers. Anything above the ground requires a foundation. Some towns we do, or we usually try to do like you can use like a bluestone dust, just to kind of give it something, but it's not so much these things sink. To a degree, yes.
The
But
grass
a lot
grows
of
up.
it, it's the grass kind of grows over. But they do, there's certainly time that some of them go down, but you just want to be able to lift them and put more dust under them. So to just say foundation for
So,
marking. You
it
don't
says
have to
base
break it
or
apart.
foundation. So,
All, maybe a good word choice would be, all above-ground monumentation requires a concrete foundation.
Marker's just a solid footing.
Markers can, again, it's kind of a,
all above, I'm sorry.
all above-ground monumentation require concrete foundations.
Well, but a marker's above ground, so we have to clear that up. Otherwise, some attorney's gonna rip that apart. Vertical markers? Vertical markers, benches,
But that's above-ground monumentation.
Right.
Most markers are flat to the ground, they're flush markers.
so,
So word
but the
choice,
exception of flush markers, which are above ground technically, so you can read them,
Well,
they're not buried.
They're flat with the
Right,
ground.
that's what I mean, it's a flush marker. I'm just trying to clarify the language for
Yeah.
what
People who
gets,
don't
what
know
gets
the
concrete, what
language.
gets stone dust.
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
right. Yeah, so, I mean, you can finagle with that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wording, but that is,
It's half the battle with this.
yes, it is.
It's 20 years from now, some
Yes.
attorney hasn't ripped it apart and said, oh, my family's doing that.
Yeah,
I don't care what you wrote.
yeah.
So I think that's probably, we just try to add a few more things in there.
Yeah, the only other thing and it's more of a you issue than
Yeah.
anything else, is also with cremations, and today you can be buried, your ashes can be spread in an active volcano, you can go out to sea, you can go just about anywhere. There's companies that will take your ashes and do anything with them. But a lot of people still like to have their names and et cetera, and put on monuments, okay? What makes it difficult is, and in talking with Robin, is that many times, or not many, I should have to speak to you on this. The fear is that some people might come back and do their own burial of ashes without permitting or burying, et cetera. And so I think for me, just when I sell a monument, I don't want to have to be, I don't want to have to face if someone says, we're going to bury them at sea, or we're going to be buried, we're going to take them down to Kentucky to the farm, that I know there's an issue, and it's more Janet too, that sometimes you want to collect money
So
just in case these people decide to come back and do this on their
if
own.
they're getting a monument placed in the cemetery, and say their name is Mary Rose, we now are putting everyone that's buried or has monumentation within our cemetery into a database, so that if somebody comes to the cemetery and says, where is Mary Rose buried?
Yeah,
If I don't have anything on Mary Rose to put in the database, she doesn't exist to me. So I need to have either their cremation certificate or their death certificate to be able to track that this was actually a real person. Somebody didn't just make up somebody's name and throw up a monument in there. And I think pretty much any cemetery, most cemeteries now are doing that. At least all the ones that I talk with that are, on my New England Cemetery Association board. And the reason we're doing that is so that we know where these people are going to be on the lot. You, Tommy, I know with, but we have other monument dealers who are in town as well. And people could be putting stuff on wrong lots. We have to verify the signatures and where everything's going on these lots. They could be taking up a grave space. If they're putting a memorial down on a grave space and we're only allowing 1 or 2 foot markers, whatever we're allowing, they're taking up a space where somebody who's possibly gonna be cremated and placed in the lot. So we wanna be sure that this lot owner knows the repercussions of putting this person's memorial down on the lot, and we wanna be tracking who is physically buried and who just has a memorial. So there are a lot of sea captains that are buried at sea that are in our cemeteries. And we have documentation, we have their obituaries, and we have when they put up their some of the memorials, not all of them, because they predate the cemetery office's record keeping. But we're tracking all that information, and for us, that tracking is where that fee comes into. And the majority of people, when we tell them that, they end up doing a burial anyways. Some of them don't. Some of them want to keep the ashes and make jewelry or do whatever they do with the ashes. This day and age, I don't know. That's their personal preference. But if they're going to be memorialized in the cemetery, we need to know who they were, how they're related to this lot. We need somebody on the lot who's the lot owner to sign off on it, that they're just doing memorialization only. It's not an internment, and they're okay with them taking up a space for somebody else's memorial. So that's an important thing for us to track. Because somebody could come 5 years later, Tom, and say, she's not even there, we're pulling that memorial up because we're putting this person in, and she's not even in there. So we want to make sure that it's a done deal. And that's why we're doing it. It's not to get the $100 from the people, it's tracking. We need to know who's going in each lot.
Okay. And I can just turn the people over to you for that?
Correct.
Would it be beneficial to put a section in the cemetery just for
No.
memorializing things?
No. So these are
No, 'cause
in
it's
family
mostly
lots.
family. Like
Yeah,
my uncle died in World War II, and he's buried in Saint-Avold, France. So on his marker, we specified that.
right. He's one of our
Very-
featured people in our new online mobile app. Yeah.
Very- So, I mean, but people, and some people will do that.
So that's the only reason we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're
that-
not
it's
doing,
just, well, it
we're
was
not
never
doing it,
explained to me that.
and,
It's just hard, again, to tell people, I know they're not buried here, but I gotta collect a fee. It's,
right. Well, you could tell them, yeah, they have to talk to
I'll
me.
Go see you, because I don't, that's just a tricky, it's a tricky, because I've already gotten the monument fee.
And
Never
not,
mind
and not only that, so once they're on,
burial.
say, if it's an island pond hypothetically, and it's gonna be all of our cemeteries, because we'll be adding, I think our next cemetery to do it on would be after this mobile app launches, I think is Mount Pleasant. So, once they're on that as well, on the mobile app, when it comes up, if they were looking for Mary Rose and they were at the entrance of Island Pond, and you put in her name, it's gonna tell you where her memorial is located, and then when you go there, the family can either put up a photograph or a picture of the memorial, and they can do an online memorial page for her as well. So, I mean, we're doing, all of these things, but on that page, it'll say, this is a memorial only, Mary Rose, and the family could say,
Right.
she's scattered somewhere else, this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's part of the package that we're trying to do in order to pay, tribute to all the people that are buried in the cemeteries, and we wanna make sure we have the accurate information. A lot of the stones that you put in, you only put the end date, so we don't have the full date of death, or we don't have any of the information. By having the cremation certificate or the death certificate, I get all the
Oh, yeah,
statistical.
no, I'm good for all that, I've just,
Yeah.
it's just if they're not gonna be buried there, I don't think we should be the ones who are responsible for that, that's all, and if I can pass them to you, I'll
Pass them on to me.
gladly do that. Yeah, I'll gladly do that. So anyway, thank you for hearing my concerns, and again, I know that maintenance issue is not going away, but I kind of find that to be the one offensive thing to, the only thing to really, how we make our rules is base it on that. That's my issue.
I think there should be something, we should have some sort of rule, something in there. Whether we put, with the exception of monumentation approved by the commission or something, to allow, like your family lot, to have 2 monuments.
So we do have that now,
Well,
Cindy, we
that's what
just
you're
changed that.
addressing, I guess.
So now you are able to then, correct?
If these pass at town meeting,
On 4 grave or
Right.
larger lots, because even
Yeah.
a 3 grave
Right.
lot,
yeah.
if you put 2 on one side, well, that starts to get kind of crowded.
Well, that will be helpful, because up until now, it's been based on deed. So if your
Yeah.
deed is just one person, then it's,
Yeah.
and that's challenging.
Yeah.
That's especially because it's, my grandfather died in '70, so now all of a sudden it's 50 years later,
Right.
and that's tricky. so. but-
So that will allow, like if Tom wanted to do that, to put another monument or a bench there, he can?
And it's gonna go, I don't want everyone to think, so what happens is Tom comes to me, we measure the lot, and if there's available space and it's allowable, some of them, there isn't available space, depending on how the lot behind it abuts up back to it. I know where this lot is, it's up by the Veterans Memorial Circle, it's pretty wide open, actually. The people who own the lot right next door moved away, we've been trying to track them down for years, and I know the Blutes are very interested in that lot. But we have to wait 75 years of non-use before we can take it back from them, if we can't contact them. It's been a little problematic, but we have a lot of cemetery lots. We have 4 in Mount Pleasant, we're doing the same thing. 2, and if they are in the older section, if we end up selling them and breaking them up into smaller size lots, we might have similar issues arise again. Yeah,
Just wanted to be sure on that.
yeah. So that's why we did add that to number 6.
Yeah.
And that's why it's in yellow.
Thank you. A quick question for you, Tom.
Yes.
If someone has a monument already and one side is engraved with names on it, the other side is just a rough stone, can that be smoothed out to put more names on? Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for taking your time to come.
Oh, no, it's my
Appreciate it.
pleasure. I appreciate you guys doing this because it's one of the more unenviable committees in town. However, you are one of the few committees that bring in money and that
Yeah.
deal with not only, you deal with real life and emotion and death and
As you do.
it's very difficult,
Yeah.
and you want to do it right.
Right.
We're fortunate that Robin is business and detail oriented, but she's also compassionate. And sometimes, and I am very. So certain things, when they start pulling at your heartstrings and your voice dries up and you kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's because I'm not here for me, I'm here for people I deal with.
Right.
And not all towns are like that. I mean, we were very fortunate in Dennis, we're very fortunate that they have Becky like Robin, who's just family first, let's go do it, what happens behind the scenes is behind the scenes, let's take care of these folks, let's be there for them. Every funeral they're there. I mean, that speaks measures to a committee and to the people who work those jobs, because it's not always financially advantageous, as we know, but it's important. Most other towns don't have anybody. Chatham right now is suffering, they have nobody.
It's awful.
And again, they just built 3 or 4 new cemeteries, they have tons of lots, they're selling them quickly, but there's nobody in charge, they're in flux of maintenance. So we're fortunate to have that. Other towns, it's business in Barnstable, very detailed, not much compassion, they do a nice job, but it's,
Yeah.
it's just, and then maintenance drives
Black
it.
and white,
From
that's
now on, every cemetery is gonna be flat no matter what, because I don't like this, and that's the head of maintenance, it's kind of a tough approach. So we're fortunate, and I compliment Robin on that, and you, because, she answers to you, and you learn from her, and it's a committee that you talk, there's give and take, and that's cool, because everybody wants the outcome to be in the best interest of everybody. So thank you for volunteering and doing this. I do know how it feels to be behind a desk.
Thank you. We appreciate you very
All right.
much
No.
also, believe
No.
me.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate all
town.
the input and stuff.
Yeah,
Be informed of what we come up with.
yeah, that's fine, that's fine. And any questions, and,
We'll probably make a rough
Look
draft
it
and might have you come back to make sure we get it right, because we don't want to go to town meeting floor with something wrong.
yeah. And again, you're constantly open to change and what needs to be done in
Right.
the future, and everything looks, very well taken care of, and we've had horrific natural disasters,
Yeah.
and the town has responded, and so the cemeteries really all look good, they're getting there. So, all right,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Tommy.
happy holidays to
Yeah,
everybody.
same to you.
Merry Christmas.
Enjoy, thank you, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. That's great.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that.
excellent.
What's good about the mausoleums, that'd be a good place to put it. There's no other place in Island Pond, that
Yeah.
new section,
Well, we haven't developed that section yet, and that was a while there. They did a lot of compost there, and that's
ground
gonna
could
be,
sink.
it's gonna be
That
sinking.
low spot in Island Pond?
No,
When you go in the very back and down?
yeah. Yeah, we couldn't
I'm not
put,
an engineer, but I
Yeah.
would not want to put 4,000 pounds of
No.
concrete and then
No.
a concrete building,
No.
granite build, oh, no.
I
that'll-
don't think so. So, I mean, I just don't think that's the area to do it. I think it'd be tough to do it in Island Pond anywhere.
Yeah, because there's no, we're filled up to the back lines.
Right.
Yeah, the one that's there now, like you say,
It's
it's
in a
tucked in,
perfect-
it's in a
Yeah.
great
It's in a
spot, it
perfect
looks
spot.
fine.
Yeah,
But I think if we added any more, they'd stick out like a sore thumb.
they
and
really would.
That's just such a natural area, and
Eh,
that's
yeah.
what people
What
love
about
about
the
it.
new area in Kelly Cemetery, Kelly?
Kelly, yeah, we do have those 3 acres or so that are in Kelly. Once we clear that, we could do it over there as well. But we could say, so the only, and the other thing is, we could, there is that whole back row in Pine Grove as well. Not that I think,
Oh, I was thinking of that when he was talking.
yeah,
Drove through
and
that
that's
last
really
week, yeah.
flat, and that is completely open. And we own all the land across the street from there as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's a lot more expandable land over there. So we could potentially do Pine Grove. We could potentially do Kelly and Evergreen. So it would be, give them three different options.
This,
That should probably be in there. These mausoleums are allowed in these 3 cemeteries.
Yeah.
I think this should be a business item for January or
Okay.
February.
Yeah.
You know, as we this has to be priority, finalizing the rules for
Yeah.
town meeting. But then relook at
Work on
this as part of, you know, our tours and
Development,
inspections
yeah.
and, again, the maps would,
Yep.
that's like my thing right now, is getting some maps ready that we can sit there and go, okay, everybody turn to
I'm
Kelly
gonna-
Cemetery and,
So I'm gonna
That's the military
see if they
background.
can,
It is.
you know that map that I showed you originally that they did in the planning department?
Right,
And that
but
is
yeah.
so long ago.
Right.
But maybe they could give us an updated one that wasn't so gridded like they did
well, I
with
think, yeah, blown up so we can see avenue names, road names.
streets, yeah. 'Cause it's-
Expandable, we own this,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, perfect.
I know we gotta go backwards, but, and I can do this afterwards,
Okay,
just chit-chatting with you, but
Yeah.
there's some things on here, I just kept my mouth shut, because
yeah,
we could have turned this into a 3-hour discussion.
yeah,
Do you want to talk about it later, or do
yeah.
you want me to fire my questions now, or later?
Like what one?
Translating some of what Tommy was asking or saying. Why don't I do?
So, I mean, he's like, holding family members to stricter regulations because of ease of maintenance is not fair or realistic. I think we have to think about maintenance. I mean, it doesn't, I know that we want people to have memorials, but we can't make it prohibited to maintenance.
If they're lined up on one end of the thing, I was saying, you can't have one memorial here, one in the middle of this one, and one this
Yeah, yeah.
way. You need,
They need a
Keep
clear
straight
path.
paths.
Mowers can only go where they can go. We can't
Espe-
have them weed whacking the whole cemetery.
See,
That
to
wouldn't-
me, that number 4 is a both and. I mean, we're already kind of compassionate towards what can be done.
Yeah.
And we're trying to fix that, as we did in the highlighted
Correct.
number 6 here. But I think we do have to be concerned with maintenance, because
Right,
we're having enough trouble keeping things shipshape.
right.
that's why we're looking at the different types of grass seeds and stuff. We're gonna have Cranberry Valley come by and talk about different grass species we could put on that require less maintenance, less mowing, less water.
Right, yeah.
And see what we can work from that area.
Yeah,
So 1 and 2 of his concerns, so while you guys were discussing, I was looking at what we have, and then nobody else really is, I'm in Barnstable, Yarmouth, and Dennis, they're not specifying. Large family lots are not being informed of the number of upright So, do we want to define that? Or is it, or is
So
it,
we
are
don't
we
really-
missing something?
No, so
here?
we normally, so the large family lots that are purchased, we have been, and I do express it to them, and that's why Tommy sold them that large upright memorial. And I do tell them if they want to break it into 2 lots, they could break it into 2 lots. So if they're gonna have, you know, them and their wife and maybe 2 people in this one, and then they're giving the next ones to their sons, you can buy lots for other members of your family if they want to have, or their daughter has a different last name. So say Eldridge, and then their daughter's name is Smith, and she wants to have her own upright memorial, you can do that, and people do that, and we do, and I do tell them that. So most people are buying 2 and 4 grave lots. Nobody is buying, I mean, that's an exception that they bought that many lots. And there was another family who also bought a lot of lots in Evergreen. They put up that huge Celtic cross. So, yeah. So, I mean, there are families that do it, but I do explain to them what the current rules are. And usually those families are doing traditional burials, and that's why they want an 8 grave lot, because they are having 8 people buried, and they are gonna be in caskets, and they're usually a religious type of thing. Most of the families who are buying the smaller lots, it's because they're all doing cremation.
Right.
And the 4 cremains can fit into a full-size burial lot, and they don't need as many spaces. So
So-
people are basically not buying those huge lots anymore.
So, but that goes to number 1.
Yeah.
Where he said, number of markers allowed on a full grave space, problem with the current rule, 4 persons allowed.
Yeah,
Well, 4 persons allowed, that's cremations.
right.
And we say on a single lot, 1 large marker or 2 flush markers.
Yeah.
And Tommy was saying
He wants to have,
wants 4 markers.
yeah, and then there'd be no grass.
Right, how do we get around that? I mean,
So I wouldn't want people to have 4 markers, there'd be no grass. There would be marker, 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 marker. So the,
They don't have to mow it. No.
I know, but then,
so I'm just confused, why is this a concern? Families are,
so the thing is
Barking at
if
him
they
that
have an
might-
upright memorial, they can put 4 names on an upright memorial easily.
okay, yeah.
So then if one of them is a veteran, they can also have all 4 names on the upright plus a military marker. He's saying, what if you have all 4 people in the military, which I guess could happen.
Sure.
I think it's probably rare.
Father and a son.
Yeah, well, that would be 2 people, but he's saying all 4 people.
Right, but I mean, there could be brothers.
Right, there could be
Father
brothers.
and 3 brothers,
Yeah.
3 sons.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, we could paint the scenario where a family that is not well off, they can
Right.
only afford 1, they realize at the time that you can put 4 people there, and by chance, all 4 are veterans. Even if there were 3 of them were veterans, father and 2 sons, or son and daughter.
so
pick
the
your-
only other thing is if we do that, then somebody could say, well, you did it for those people that were all veterans, we want to do it for all of us, so we want 4 markers.
Right, well, no, I'm just trying to be sensitive,
Yeah.
what Tommy was asking, is that too restrictive? I mean, like Cindy was saying, now you don't have to mow at all, because you've got 4 metallic markers occupying the entire footprint.
Yeah, so they might not even mow over them, and then what if they don't weed whack them, and then in between them, you won't even be able to see them?
No, they-
That's my,
Well, I guess what I'm getting at
they do
is
something, yeah.
is he right? How many families want to do that? Are we being too restrictive? And let me back up.
yeah,
The whole time we're having this discussion, all I could picture was from some TV show, the way cemeteries are in Louisiana, because you don't bury, you put them on the ground,
yeah,
on the surface. And if you ever see the TV shots of these cemeteries, which are wonderful to them, I go, oh my gosh, the confusion and the visual lines and everything, no, I wouldn't want that. But, I mean, should we allow 4 metal markers? Should,
I say, why not? If you've got 1 lot, you can either have the regular, the 1 upright, or if you want to put 4 markers. I mean, some of the
well,
markers.
if you had 1 upright, you would only be able to fit 3 more.
I'm just saying, if, let's just talk about the flat flush markers, whether they be veterans or they be just anybody. Because some of the, a lot of the markers for the religious markers, especially the flat flush ones, look like veterans if you look quickly,
Yeah.
you know. But you could have 4 lined up on a lot, I don't see why not. I mean, it's
I'm
no
just-
different than if you've got one of the raised spaces where it has the fence all around it, and they have to go up there and weed whack the whole thing, or they have to lift a small mower up there to mow it. You know, but this one, they can either mow right over top of it, or just buzz over it with a weed whacker.
I mean, statistically, it's a low percent, the possibility of this happening is pretty small, but I could
Right.
see a husband and wife buy 2 lots. They have 4 children, all 4 serve and perish.
Right.
Well, all 6 of them elect to be cremated. So there could be a need for 4 veterans markers and a stone for mom and dad. You know, that would be 2, 2, 2, 2, and a stone, you know, if I was laying it out, if I had your job, but
Right.
I think we could deal with that if you put someplace, you know, like, this can be, in some instances, when approved by the commission, it'd be okay, in better
A
words, obviously.
modified layout or something like
Right,
that.
just that there are some exceptions to the rules, but it has to be approved by the commission.
I
So
mean,
I
visually, it's
just think
not
that
a-
we just designated, you know, Island Pond as an arboretum, and then we're gonna take away all the green space,
Yeah, but
because,
Like we just said, there's not gonna happen that often, that you're gonna have 4 markers in a
so
row.
my concern is, now people come into these older family lots, say that
Yeah.
their grandparents bought, and the grandparents bought a lot, and they have mom, dad, Elizabeth, blah, 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 and this is the way they wanted their lot.
Right.
Now their kids, 2 generations later, or their great-grandchildren, now want to marker the whole lot, so the lot looks completely different from what the original owner's intent is. And I don't know that we should be changing the original, so in Mount Auburn or any of those other cemeteries, they only go 2 generations. After the 2 generations, you are not allowed to alter the lot.
Right.
So if the 3rd generation, the grandchildren come in and they say, if there's space and they want to do something similar to what the actual lot layout was, they can. But they cannot alter the way the original intender of the lot was. Because he purchased that stone and the way that is laid out, and we're really taking away what he wanted. And he's the one who purchased it. They're only inheriting rights of burial. They're not inheriting the way to change everything. They can't remove Grandpa's stone and say, hey, you know what, we don't even want that anymore. So, I mean, we gotta draw the line at some point and say, in
Maybe the
these
newer
older
spots.
family lots, I mean, if somebody buys their own lot, they purchase their own lot, and so Shawnee Carroll's a veteran, her husband's a veteran, and I don't know if any of their kids are veterans, but they have 2 kids. So hypothetically, they're all veterans. And they get buried and they all want a military marker. That's one thing, that's their lot. They purchased it. Where I'm having a problem with it is, this is grandma's lot.
Right.
People are coming in now, and now they're gonna change the way this lot looked, which is not what grandma wanted.
It was like that Etsy lot we went and looked at.
Right.
yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
So, I mean, you have to look at what the original intentions of the original lot owners. And I think if it's a new lot, we sell it to them and they say, this is the way it's gonna be, we're probably all gonna have flat flush markers, and we wanna do this. I don't think we should change old existing lots. I think old existing lots that do have space, we wanna keep with the aesthetics that were created in those older lots. You don't wanna walk into the older section of Island Pond and the way it's laid out now and change the way these historic lots look. These historic lots are what these people wanted. I don't think we can take them the way they look and change them into a modern-looking lot. I think in those older lots, we allow them to do what is currently in those lots, and I think we should continue that. I don't think we should be adding anything extra to those ones. Again, if somebody purchases their own lot, and they want it, and it's their own lot, then potentially, I think we can do something, but,
So in historic sections,
right?
there are lots available?
There are not, but there are spaces available. Say they bought a 12-grave lot, and there is a couple of those, and they have big, huge stones in the middle, and then they have available 4 or 5 extra spots.
That have been will passed down to,
Right, and so now we're going into like the 4th generation, because these people only had 1 or 2 kids, and we're allowing them 1 flat flush marker per grave space. Whether they do, in some instances, they do a full casket burial and a cremation, and we still allow them 1 flat, because we want the lot to look the
so
same.
Seaside and Chatham, they have a specific designation for, I forget what it's called, but it's the really old section of the cemetery.
Right,
And, I mean, specific rules, can't do this, can't do that. Do we want to have a historic section that addresses this?
yeah, because I don't
This is
think,
a separate issue,
so
but,
I really don't think
Piggyback.
you want to change a historic area.
No.
I think
Right.
the historic area should stay,
but we don't outline that.
no.
It should be,
We're getting in so deep that it's, you know, we could be adding.
Well, this is why I panicked last week when he said, we have to have this done by January.
Yeah,
This
right.
is-
No, well, we need a placeholder by January. We gotta send them something and say, we might be updating this. We're gonna have a couple more meetings or something like that, but,
We, yeah, have one, in East Harwich, we have a family lot, and it's a 10-grave lot.
right,
It has 1 upright monument. There's several veterans on it.
yeah.
And to my knowledge, there's only 1, let me see, on one side, there's 2, 4, so there should be a 5th. There's 1 open on one side, and then there's 2, 4, 5, well, and on the back side, there's 4 full and a baby.
Yeah.
Where that baby is, can there be
Cremations.
cremations added to that? So there's 1 full burial on one side, and then cremations could be added to the other side, where that baby is, correct?
Yes,
Okay. But we can't, obviously, it's a 10-grave lot, but we can't put a
well,
bench
it
on it.
depends. You wanna look at how big it is and where the monument's placed. You could probably,
Right.
depending on where it is, but we wanna still keep it looking historic.
Exactly.
We
yeah, put
don't
like
want it.
monuments.
We don't want to put in something, so on some of those lots, say they were 12 graves across, okay? And typically, sometimes they're not centered, sometimes they're over here. So we have allowed, and there's a couple of them in there we've allowed, but we make them duplicate. So if this is a gray granite, they're not putting in a rose stone, a rose rock. This has to be, it has to look similar.
That makes
So
sense. Okay.
I think
Then-
we need to have historic,
Section,
we need to address historic sections.
right.
I think they should be defined.
Yeah, give the areas in the cemeteries.
And, I mean, I'm totally trusting
And
you for this, Robin, because, I mean,
And
this
the
is
other
your
thing is I think we should cap it eventually, so I mean, I think is only gonna be, I mean, I don't think, Mount Auburn's like 2 generations, that's it. I mean, I think you could do 3 generations of family. I think when you get to like the 5th, like, we're talking like, people are coming in and saying, because who is really, the thing is that so I have my grandparents' lot. My grandparents had 14 kids, and then my father had 6 kids. So, I mean, if you look at that, who's really entitled to be buried in there? So you inherit rights of inheritance through, unless somebody is given the lot. So say you have 6 kids, each of those 6 kids gets the equal share. You would have to ask each one of them, you'd have to prove none of them want to go there to take over the lot. Like, people are like, well, I'm his grandson, I'm taking over the lot. I'm like, yeah, you have to contact those other people. I need to know they don't want to, because you might just get 1 space, but you want to use all 4. So, I mean, it's rights of inheritance,
Yeah, but I mean, so that needs to be another section.
yeah.
Yeah.
So historically, I think, this is just my opinion,
Yeah.
this should address the appearance, the preservation of that section, because it is so old, and you don't know the intentions, and anybody that has access to an open spot to preserve the historical appearance of that section, flush only, and it's limited by whatever you were just saying.
Right.
But I think that should be
And they have to
black
prove
and white.
that they're who they say they are.
Well, so,
So that's the other thing, so they have to fill out an heirs of record form, it has to be notarized, and they have to prove to me that they're direct descendants.
so again, because of your vast experience, I think you need to write
Okay,
a historic section, and then, while you're at it, new page, what did I write? Generational intentions.
That, yeah, excuse me, I'm thinking of a example of that is this old family lot. And my aunt, who's buried there, said that her youngest son has that last spot. Who's to say that he should be buried there, not me?
right.
How do you do that? I mean, we're getting into
So
like
it's-
real legal crap.
So it's rights of inheritance.
Right.
So literally, if it's 6 open spaces and the grandparents had 5 kids,
Yeah.
each one of the remaining kids, even if they are buried somewhere else, their heirs still have rights in that lot unless they say they don't want to use it.
Okay, so we're basically cousins.
Yeah,
So is it who dies first?
you don't want to win that race, Cindy.
I don't plan to, but I'm just saying, how do you do that?
It would be rights of inheritance, and then
Right.
what we would do is, we would write down each person.
Right.
So if it was Sally, Carol, Elizabeth, and Amy, and they have 4 kids, each one of them are entitled to a space.
Okay,
If Amy dies and then her kid dies,
right.
you have to contact the other 3 members. They have to, or you do, and you say, are you gonna use this space? And is it okay if we give it to Amy's son?
So in other words, the cousins could
Say no.
say no
They could say
to
no.
anybody.
That's correct. Because they could use that space, and that's their space, because it goes in tiers, so it's like the parents,
Tiers and birth order.
yeah, yeah,
Again, I think you need to, and this should play right into your ancestry
and
background.
we've had.
Genealogy
And
background.
literally, we've had issues where
Right.
people said, no, I'm not gonna have, my nephew is not being buried in my parents' lot because I'm going there.
So
And,
does that have to be put into writing?
no,
With the
that's Mass
whomever?
state law, that's law. And we could say, rights of inheritance, and then I could put in the chapter and whatever,
Mass code.
yeah.
So, I think that we should add, going all the way back, just as you guys have to, Robin has to go to a funeral here.
Yeah.
I think that under rules and regs, right after cemetery lots, or prior to that, we need to have historic.
So under B?
Well, I'm going by just my blue,
Oh, okay,
very first page. So it's either one of the first things, or it's in between interments or cemetery lots. But somewhere in there is historic designation. So that's rules and regulations governing cemetery regulations, and it's governing historic designation, or
Okay.
whatever an appropriate title would be.
All right.
Historically designated sections, And then, generational,
inheritance, what,
well.
right, it's called burial rights.
Well, I really liked your phrase, generational intention,
Okay,
but if we're outlining the process for assigning or allowing burials post generational phrase. But a section, we'll come up with a title or something.
I've only had one person come to me when they purchased their deed and said, this is how my lot's gonna be laid out, no exceptions. It is not to be changed. So they said, I'm putting my memorial here, my wife's going there, and they said, and in the back lots, my kids are not gonna be using that, so I'm placing a tree there. So those grave spaces that I purchased are to put the tree on, and they're not to be used. So he put that in his deed. So he was very specific because he did not want his lot changed after his death.
I would think that's
Good
the
thinking.
way that it would have to be, because once that generation has passed away and it comes down to the grandkids, great-grands, et cetera, I mean, they don't know what's changed.
Right.
But I understand you want it respect. you
Right.
know, But you're getting into a whole bunch of legal stuff. It's,
Well, if it ends up being in the rules that we only allow 3 generations, then we only
Right.
allow 3 generations, so
so should we consider that?
I think we should, because I think some of these older lots that are very historic, like, the 1800s, I mean, we're talking people wanna, oh, well, he was a traditional burial, and he was in the Spanish-American War,
Right.
so why can't I go on top of him and
Right.
put another marker? I mean, we don't really wanna change the integrity of that grave space. That is his grave space, he has a single grave space. It has an upright military marker on the grave. I would never wanna put anything else in front of that. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah,
do
so
we,
it's gonna be something, you can't change the look of the old part of the cemeteries, period, end of story.
So I think historic, are we gonna say anything not historic, so anything, so we wanna say anything pre-1900?
Gotta air to you for that, huh?
Yeah. Historic is usually 100 years or older.
Oh, to
typically.
define the historic sections?
It's usually 100 years.
Like in Island Pond, that's that main,
It's that main, as you
So
come in.
remember though, there are scattered cemetery, lots.
Yeah, yeah.
That are
Correct,
old.
right.
I mean,
Like, for instance, the George Weeks lot, which is in the middle, kinda near where
yeah,
you
it's in
just
the middle
purchased,
of, right.
is the oldest lot in the entire cemetery. Those are Revolutionary War veterans are buried in there. So, I mean, I think nobody,
Well, so,
I would never approve anything that would go in that section.
but so maybe that needs 2 paragraphs.
Okay,
We designate historic sections. They are Island Pond between, I don't know, I can't remember the words, East Main Street and whatever and whatever. We border them somehow.
yeah.
just say
Or the-
historic sections?
Historic sections, and they're defined as currently, and then historic grave
Sites.
lots.
Yeah.
And that, the only way to define that is yeah, I like 1900.
Yeah.
Pre-1914,
Yeah.
just pick a number, so pre-1900. That, and then specific rules to those to preserve the
Historic integrity.
historic integrity and intentions of the original family's wishes.
Yeah.
And then if somebody wants to come to you and go, well, there's a paragraph in Grandpa's will from 1824 that said, well, then our hands are tied.
Then you have to go
Right.
by that,
I don't think that's gonna happen, but,
right?
All right, so that.
but you don't know. Gotta keep it
And then
open.
I found it, the generational section,
Mm-hmm.
that should, in interments, interments number 2, you talk about the legal representative, the right of burial in the lot. So we probably should add renumber, I'm just thinking, and paragraph, so you see where I am here?
Yep.
Cemetery regulations,
I got it.
interments. Hey, Robin, remind me to number these pages. So, I would say we add a paragraph 3, and that is generational, however you want to write that up. And then 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5. Generational succession. How's that? For a start.
Okay,
And then you can address
yep,
the genealogy of how this is handed down, and,
right.
yeah, we're gonna get this done by January.
Should we
Look at
someplace,
this.
right, in the case of a questionable thing, basically it's up to the administrator, excuse me, the commission and the administrator have final say in better
So
wording.
usually, so what happens, and this happens more probably in Mount Auburn, because their cemetery lots are like $80,000. So anyways, so, in there, if somebody comes forward, they have to prove. I don't have to prove, they have to prove who they are. So usually it's a death certificate, marriage certificate, birth certificate. They have to bring it in and say, I mean, they're probably more strict than most, but if I have their lineage and they have it notarized, I usually take that. I mean, I can usually look. A lot of the people who are using the older lots are usually in their 70s and 80s anyways, and they usually, I can find them, you know, when
But
I
I think
search.
Cindy was asking if there's an issue that has to be decided, maybe we need a paragraph, excuse me if I'm
Yeah,
attorney,
no,
but a paragraph that says, when things have to be decided, however you want to
Right.
phrase that, it has to be determined via a simple majority of the commission.
Okay,
Because you could be away, you know, but we can get together real quick and
Right.
call you anyway and say, hey, this is what we're gonna
Right.
do. you know.
Would it be maybe just at the end of everything, a disclaimer that says, any exceptions to the rules and regulations have to be approved by the commission and administrator? Just something to, at the end,
have the rules.
to say,
Well, actually, I think that ought to be in
that
the
might
beginning.
sum up, you know, like, whatever your
Yeah, the
problem might
below
be.
rules are,
Bottom line is that
yeah.
we decide what should or shouldn't be.
right. So you think it should be probably maybe after office administration?
Kind of lost now.
Well, somebody, one of the rules, one of the other towns addresses this.
I'm numbering your pages.
Probably near the beginning, actually.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think it should be at the beginning. I have to leave like 10 minutes.
At the beginning of the
You
rules
guys
and
can stay
regulations.
if you want.
Any exceptions to the rules and regulations must be determined by the commission and the administrator.
I just don't know where you want to put it.
Before the rules and regulations start.
So,
Here we go. In Chatham, just before, matter of fact, just before the Seaside Cemetery, Section A, it says, "The Town of Chatham Cemetery Commission reserves the right to enforce these rules and regulations and to cause a person or persons who have knowingly violated blah, 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 blah." But, I mean, it could be right there.
yeah,
Or underneath administration,
yeah, that's where I
So-
thought it should
Sure.
be.
so right after the paragraph about Robin and the office, there should be Cemetery Commission.
Well, before current fees.
No, just before,
Hours of operation.
so it's right after the fee schedule
Policy
link,
schedule.
Right,
and then right above Cemetery Commission Rules and Regulations,
yes.
and that addresses, do we already have that on our? The Cemetery Commission. Sorry, the Harwich website's not working.
Why don't you put it right in there between current fees and the Harwich Cemetery Commission rules? Any exceptions to the rules and regulations are determined.
Must
They-
go before the cemetery commissioners or
Mhm.
administrator?
I think it would be determined by the administrator and commission. Would that sum it up?
Yeah, exceptions that cannot be,
Any exceptions
yeah, any exceptions, yeah,
to the rules and regulations
right.
must be determined by the administrator and commission.
Yeah, and I think we ought to do like simple majority of the commission. If one of us is away in the hospital, COVID, can't,
Well, it just says determined, it
or
doesn't say by
that's true,
how many or
Yeah.
anything.
Because we have to have a quorum to make a
Right.
decision. so.
right.
Just make
Very
it
true.
simple, so that
Yeah.
if somebody goes, oh, yeah, but
Let's
what,
spell
how
that
come
out
this
almost.
one did something? You go, oh, well, because they came before us and said, this is what they like, and we checked it out, we said, it can be done, okay. That kind of, in any instance, I would think, anybody can come back and say, well, why do they have this, and how come they're getting away with this, you know? Well, because any exception to the rule and regulations came before us, and
Yeah.
we approved it, period.
And that is a good deflection for you.
Yeah,
You can just say, this is what they voted on, and it's not in here, and you can do the family thing, I recommend you do this, or I recommend you do that. Now we want this, okay. You
Yeah.
can come meet with the people that I work for, and,
right.
And I mean, some of the requests are reasonable.
oh, yeah.
So, and,
Right.
you know, but sometimes,
Always have to think worst case.
Right.
yeah, sometimes they're not reasonable, and then, you just can't do it.
Right, and, but then there's a thing of, we have changed the rules so that we can't have, the stuffed animals and the big
Never thought.
skateboards,
stuffed
all those things.
Stuffed animals are not a good thing in the cemetery. I don't know why people would think that, but,
Wow,
I mean, they only look good for a day,
right,
and then
but it's something important to them.
I know.
So how do we deal with that? Are we gonna have to write them letters and say, you must remove these?
So I usually, and I've gone down, we had the baby that was buried in Island Pond, and they were putting extra stuff on, and I brought her the rules, and I just explained to her that they're really not supposed to do that. And the grandmother was wonderful.
Right.
She says, oh, I didn't know, so we
Right.
won't do that, and she called everyone in their family. So I think most of the people are very understanding once they know. I think some of them just see other people do it, and then they think they should do it.
Sure.
So as long as I think that they're informed, so, yeah, I can write some of them letters, but we want to make sure.
But we already addressed this.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
number 9 in red, temporary displays that commemorate birthdays, anniversaries. I mean, would that fit under
Right,
that?
right. Oh, yeah,
It
Will
does,
be removed after 30 days by the cemetery department.
right,
right.
So we know it's not going to be exactly 30 days.
yeah.
but-
So I think without saying, it kind of goes like, if there's a memorial things to a teenager, say, a skateboard and the dog and a lot of mementos. I don't think we should write them a letter and say, you must remove these, because that's painful, that's
Mm.
hurtful.
Yeah.
I think we should wait, and if somebody goes, well, how come they have this? Well, is that offensive to you? Do you have a lot next to them? Is it offensive to you? If it is, then we'll speak to them, and we'll tell them, gee, it is in the rules and regulations. Can we use that?
So
Type
remember
of a
remember we did do that, remember somebody put up a wooden cross?
No.
which-
Yes.
And then they actually got a nice memorial.
Yes,
But I
they
mean,
did.
the abutters to them were like, no, it's in the rules, they can't have it, we want it removed, we want you to talk to them today. And we had, went back and forth, and we did reach out to the family. They put up a temporary wooden cross because they couldn't afford a memorial. It was a young father who died, and he had younger kids, and the kids had to get together the money to pay for a memorial.
Fortunately, I don't know what you do
Yeah.
yet. But when you go to a funeral,
Right,
or in the discussions the days prior, as they're setting everything up, assuming that they already had the plot,
right.
do you brief them, give them?
I give them the rules and regulations anytime I sell them a lot.
Well, I wonder if Yeah, so if I'm dealing with a family full of grief and
Right.
people coming in, this, yeah, that's nice. I'm gonna get to it like
Right.
my new car warranty that I'm being phoned about. So, I mean, should we maybe have an abbreviated kind of, instead of
rules.
here are the rules,
Right.
you know, and they look like the US budget.
They usually ask me what they can do for memorials when they're purchasing a lot. I usually go through, if you're gonna get a single grave space, this is what you can have on the single. If you're gonna get a cremation lot, this is what you can get. So I do
But I mean,
explain,
a simple,
right,
like one-page gentle reminder,
right,
you know, while you're dealing with all this, where we nicely address, you know,
Stay within these bounds or something.
if it looks tacky, it's gotta go away within 30 days. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
write that, but.
yeah.
Yeah, that or just after the fact, if it's a lot of stuff that perhaps we could just ask Robin to give them a call or whatever and say, gee, I just want to
Yeah,
remind you.
so that's another reason why you want,
To be
you know,
gentle.
Tom, so when somebody does put a memorial down, I have a contact information on the internment thing that gives me their, who authorized it, what their phone number is, or their email address, and how to contact them, their full address, mailing address. So if I don't get those forms from them when they do this memorialization burial thing, then I wouldn't have any way to contact them. So, half the time, I keep those in the folder, and that's what you use to contact them, if you don't have that paperwork. Actually, Steve, who is working on our online mobile app, has put together some forms that are gonna be on the online mobile app, which will be for all the cemeteries, so that the funeral directors, I mean, you have to have an access code to get in there, but they can fill all that stuff out electronically, so that it'll be tied to the lot thing. So who contacted, what day they contacted, when the service is gonna be, and who the funeral director was, who the grave diggers were, all the way down, it's gonna have all that information, so that if I needed to retrieve it, it would be electronic, and I wouldn't have to go through all the paper, which would save me paper.
So you gotta go.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to adjourn, but we didn't get past Robin and the
You guys don't
administrative.
have to adjourn if I'm leaving, you could stay a little bit longer, and it's gotta be recorded, and then I can just, if you wanna stay a little bit longer.
I'm free, it's up to you guys. You're packing up like you gotta go.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just paying out that we're all leaving. We can hang out for a little while, go to, stay till 11.
Sorry, I have a, that's all right. Funeral I gotta attend, so I gotta go. All right, thank you, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Do we have a next meeting too?
Oh, yeah,
It's usually the first
right,
Tuesday.
January.
Yeah, we did. We already picked that the
I
other
did,
day.
we already did, I already put it in the book.
Yeah,
the
okay.
4th.
Carry on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, boss. Okay.
So you get through the administration. On this, when we go to cemetery lots, should we have a line in there that designates the size of a burial lot, 4x10? Cremation lots are, a single one is this size. The double
Where are
one,
we?
Right after, I'm a couple pages in already.
Yeah. All right, so I'm there.
B, section 2, number B.
2B, okay.
If we add the size of
Oh.
cemetery lots,
I would love to see that, because,
just put the size, because it's up here.
yeah, all we have is this one. And that's just the markers on the lots.
We need like cemetery lots, give it the size, so the original lot is, in new cemeteries or new lots are 4x10 for one burial or 4 cremations. And then the cremation lots, you can have are all the cremation lots gonna be 3x4, or are they single ones too? Were there a single lot size we had?
You know, just lost our expert.
Yeah, I know it.
So you think in B, we should maybe start with a definition of,
What a cemetery lot is, or a burial space is, this size.
Define cemetery.
lot sizes. Because you have the main lot, and then you can have the cremation lots, and now we have the mausoleums.
Say that one more time. So we have,
The full burial
and aren't there
lots.
two of those, two different sizes? Old and the new?
For,
The burial lots, a traditional burial lot? I thought
The
Robin
old
had said.
cemeteries, I think they were a foot narrower and shorter. You can put that in parentheses
Yeah, old lot
afterwards.
size, new lot size, cremation lots.
Yep, I think there's a single lot and a double lot. The double lot is 4 by 3, and I'm assuming the single lot is 2 by 3.
And mausoleum.
And the mausoleum's gotta be a double width lot, as a minimum.
Unless, and that wouldn't be appropriate in definitions.
So you can put it in definitions, but it'd be nice if you're in cemetery lots to see the size of that.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with it either play, I mean, it's just edit,
Instead of
copy, paste to stick it in the definitions as well, in case somebody looks there.
Well, we can do that
Yeah.
too, but it should be in the same area. It's like when you go into a store and you're looking for something, and next year you're running all over the place trying to find the silliness.
Okay? Do we want to just back up and just start ticking off these things, just so we don't have to revisit it again? All right, so was just trying to reorganize, because some places we had I, double I, triple I, IV. I'm like, well, we're either doing numbers or not, but anyway, that'll all get standardized for the final.
Yes.
So we're not mixing and matching. So one, I think we had done that before. Oh, oh, so the blue stuff is what I wrote. Robin edited this one thing where it says, so I'm on cemetery visitation rules, number 1. Cemetery grounds are not, and I had just edited, I forget what town I took this from. But I said not public property, public park, but Robin says they are, that's why that's strike through. They are not, that should say playgrounds. All visitors are requested to keep in mind that cemeteries are consecrated to the memories of those who are buried within. Dignified behavior is expected and will be required at all times. The red is what we had done. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I put that in from Chatham.
I'm lost, I'm sorry. Could I
Okay,
straighten me out where I am?
right here. So this
Second
is right
page.
after Robin's section, admin. Harwich Cemetery
Put these on
Visitation
and
Rules. So it's the page where your right hand is, it should be the next one after that.
Which right hand? See,
Oh,
You flipped it over?
inverted. No,
no, that was the, I've got them all mixed up, I'm sorry.
so it's the page that has her
Oh, this
phone
is
numbers
office
on it.
phone. That's not it, right here, is it?
Nope.
I think it might be over here. Boy, I really get that mixed up.
That's it, right below your fingers. Keep going, deep, 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 one more.
That one,
There you go.
thank you.
So that's
Sorry.
that paragraph I put in at the beginning of that one point, right?
Yeah, I think that I grabbed that because you would really like that, and I stuck it in this paragraph, yeah. All right, so
Okay,
number 1, Cindy.
Yep.
So I grabbed some of this from Chatham. She said, no, they are public property, so I don't know where that came from. So she struck that out. But it's to say cemetery grounds are not playgrounds,
Or recreational areas?
yeah, or recreational areas. I like that. Okay. All visitors are requested to keep in mind that cemeteries are consecrated to the memories of those who are buried within. Dignified behavior is expected and will be required at all times. In the many years, and this is, Steve would come up with this one, in the many years of cemetery operation, it has been shown that it is necessary to adopt and enforce regulations to govern the conduct of visitors, to ensure respect for the dead, protect the grounds, and assure the safety of the visitors. These rules and regulations have been adopted in advance and secure these public interests. And I just put the reference there, which is Chatham, which would not be there. And then I expanded on it, said loud, boisterous, and I think I took this from another section that we had written before. Loud, boisterous, or undignified behavior will not be tolerated. Sunbathing, picnicking, playing, and somebody had it said the consumption of alcoholic beverages are prohibited. And then my snarkiness said, well, what about smoking pot? You
Yeah.
know, it's,
I think all those things become undignified behavior, so I don't know if we have to
Yeah.
spell that out.
Yeah, or consumption of alcohol, or any illegal drugs.
or, well, it could be not illegal. I mean, alcohol
they're
is
not now.
not illegal.
True.
It's just, you just can't have an open bottle.
Right. Consumption of alcohol beverages are prohibited.
I
mean,
would take out the sunbathing, picnicking, playing, and then go the consumption of alcohol beverages are also prohibited, and or drug use or something.
Well, you want to take those out?
Sunbathing, picnicking,
See, now, one day I was riding my bike, learning the cemetery. I was over at Island Pond, and there were two young adults, and I was kind of going, good for you guys. I mean, they were on a blanket. There was a bottle of wine there,
Yeah.
wouldn't they be
and they were getting frisky.
Undignified behavior.
Well, I mean,
Right. It happens.
yeah, it's, you know, and if they were with, man, I personally, I got no problem with that at all. I'm just saying that,
Yeah,
you know,
we can leave that in there, then if we have to I'd put in parentheses, like
will not be tolerated, parentheses,
sunbathing, picnicking.
i.e.
Yeah.
sunbathing, picnicking, playing, and the consumption.
Of alcohol.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to have a party.
Now, should that be broken up into 3 smaller paragraphs? Take the red and make that start of a new paragraph within that section, instead of just one big paragraph?
Well, because I think it all relates to the same,
Keep in that section.
yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it, but, you know.
How about if you put possibly edit?
Yeah. Speed limit thing, that's all fine.
What if it said the consumption of alcohol? I mean, smoking is not illegal at the cemetery. So if somebody lights up a joint, it's legal, especially if the rules and the laws permit it. But,
Maybe
you
you
know,
should,
if you've got a bottle and who knows what's in your bottle,
right.
you know, is it water, is it vodka, is it, you know, if you need that to get through the funeral, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But we don't want the party, we don't want the funeral to turn into the wake.
Maybe we should just leave it at loud, boisterous, or undignified behavior will not be tolerated, period. Because we do have it someplace else that anybody
Yeah,
who's
just down a little
intoxicated
bit.
would be removed.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm happy with that. All right, so crossing that out. So tolerated, period, and then everything else gets removed.
Yep.
We all agreed previously 2 was good.
3 was good.
3, well, I added, just because I got it from I had all of these out on my computer screen, and I was trying to compare how did they write that
Right.
similar paragraph. Use of any cemetery driveway, cart path, or thoroughfare shall be prohibited. I think that was to keep people from cutting through a cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one that can do
They
that
won't.
too is Evergreen.
Evergreen,
They do
probably,
it
yeah.
all the time. I think parking is limited to the roadways only, or you can call driveways only,
Yeah,
is a good thing, because,
let's change it
Otherwise-
to roadways.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna get,
Because there are some places where it looks like, is that somebody's lot, or can I cut through there?
oh, and can you
So-
imagine if it
Oh, yeah.
The Escalade goes through
First
the,
in the old sections.
yeah. All right, so 3, I like that. 4, recreational sports, I wrestled with this one because of what we had, it sounded funny. And then I found some stuff from another town. Recreational sports are similar activities to include bicycling, horseback riding, motorcycling, or skateboarding are prohibited. And then, it was because we had the discussion, like, what if you want to ride your bike over and spend some time with grandma? I mean, I'd do stuff like that. The non-recreational use of skateboards, rollerblades, bicycling for the purpose of respectful visitation will be permitted, see number 1 above, which talks about why you're there. Other non-registered vehicles are not allowed at any time, and that would address the mountain biker, the dirt biker cutting through to ride the
Right.
forestry trails. Okay, so is 4 okay?
Yep.
And then we have 5, consumption of alcohol or drugs are prohibited.
Yep, and that covers what we were talking
Yeah,
about
and
there.
there you go. So that's a good call on number
Sums it
1.
up.
Yep.
All right, so 5 is okey dokey. Look at us,
6, I
look at us whip right through these. 6, we'd already agreed on. We changed and rewrote. Monuments, gravestones, or restricted within this area shall not be defaced in any way. Gravestone repairs, cleanings, or rubbings require, I almost wish that was like in bold print, underlined. Require prior authorization of the Cemetery Commission. Pressure washing gravestones is expressly prohibited. Any damage incurred will be at the expense of the parties involved.
Yep.
And I think I just changed the verbiage there, because whatever Robin had typed was like, it was scratching my head, but.
So,
Okay, 7's good.
pardon me, how, on that one, we're leaving it as is? All the,
Oh, 7?
basically everything except for the one that's lined out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
I'll remove the underline,
Okay,
yeah, because I think the underline was just when Robin was retyping what we had dictated.
Yeah. If we get to a certain point, it would be nice to print this as what a finished document would look like,
Right.
so we can look at it and see.
that's what I
Because
was thinking too.
sometimes it's hard to see.
Well, I can do that for the
Yeah.
next meeting. I can,
Okay.
as far as we get,
Do like the
I'll make a
cover
line
page.
and I'll go, how's this? This is where we are so far.
Yeah,
That's what we gotta do, otherwise you get confused looking at
Yeah.
all these.
The only thing that'll be different is if Robin can get me those 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs on generational and then define the lot,
Yep.
and then
so on that one, are we taking out the pressure washing?
no, that stays,
That's-
because that's underlined,
underlined.
not strike through. We wrote that
Okay, I got you,
months ago.
just the strike through.
Yeah, the part that's blue is expressly prohibited. I just rewrote what she wrote,
Okay,
just
that's
so
what I
it
thought too, thank you.
had some firepower. 8, hunting is prohibited at all times. Firearms shall not be discharged in the cemeteries except for salutes at military funerals, Memorial Day, or Veteran Day ceremonies. And that's actually in alignment with other towns.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Domestic animals.
Yeah, domestic and I think, so it's in blue, so I wrote this or stole it. Domestic animals of any type shall not be permitted in the cemeteries except certified animals assisting persons with disabilities.
Certified service animals. Would you put service in there? Because they're service animals, right?
Except certified, yeah,
Certified service animals,
which is the
That's good.
biggest scam at the airlines right now.
yeah.
Okay, so 9 is good. 10, some other town had this, because we have trash cans. I mean, why not? No household trash to be disposed in the rubbish containers. Picking of, and because of the arboretum, picking of blossoms, flowers, or foliage is prohibited. And I think at last meeting, Robin said that somebody's doing a garden, the wildflower garden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, okay, so
That's
9,
good.
10, and 11 are good?
Yep.
All right, so then, as part of the alignment, cemetery regulations is double I, and that's in blue, and the reason it says title change is because I was trying to specify cemetery rules, and then we have cemetery regulations. So we have the big rules that talk about the whole kit and caboodle,
right.
and then the regulations are, this is how you
Size.
dig, this is monuments, this is the nuts and bolts. Interments, not internments, although it may feel like an internment. So that's A. We have already agreed on the black, because there's no red there, except now we're gonna add Robin's generational number 3.
And change the numbers.
Yep, and I'll renumber that, and I'll actually, when I clean this up, I'll send this to her as a reminder, blank space, put it in here in red.
Great.
And then cemetery lots is the new B. And we had already done that, because we agreed on the renumbering and making number 2. Except now we would like a definition,
Of lot sizes.
lots,
Or burials,
yeah.
yeah, lot sizes. With a single lot.
And then it comes down to Robin's 4. And then I wonder if it should,
Now, is number 2 gonna be part of what she's sticking up in interments? The owner of the rights of burial or their heirs? Will
I
that
wonder
move
if that's where her generational thing should go.
underneath B2?
So,
Yeah,
yeah, so here, well, it'll just get renumbered. That ought to be a paragraph in itself.
Yeah.
So a new 3 is generational.
yeah.
Okay,
And we got the Mass General laws, it's already cited.
yeah. So we were good with that. 3, 4, next page. 5 we had agreed on.
6.
And that's gonna get expanded with the definition of lot sizes.
Yeah.
6, we all liked. Why did she have a line through 7? Oh, I know, because, 6 and 7,
Well, it's the same thing.
they are the same thing.
That's probably why that got crossed out.
Well, maybe that sentence is supposed to go up there. Burial lots for interment of any indigent resident, veteran, or, oh, no, that was, 6 is indigent resident veteran. And then 7 is any indigent resident. So we still need 7.
I would think so. Or unless you put a subtotal like 6AB. And indent it, so it's keep 'em like in the same section, but 2 separate paragraphs. Because if we start writing everything in one big paragraph, then you can never figure anything out.
Well, so we just leave 7? Or do we make
7.
6 indigent residents?
7 was supposed to be for the indigent stillborn, a very young infant.
Yeah, and that got crossed out.
Yeah,
I thought Robin she had a story of somebody that,
Well, we included parents in that.
yeah, maybe that's what it was.
that the space would be made available to parents of the indigent stillborn child.
But I thought she had brought up that we have indigent people here that
We-
the town would provide.
We do have the children's area.
But what about, do we,
Or
an
parent.
indigent adult?
And we have for the veterans, I think that's what we did, reworded it to include any indigent resident, whether it be a child or an adult.
So 7 should probably stay.
Made available to
Right,
any
no, that's what I'm saying, so 7 should remain.
Yep.
of the
okay.
town.
I don't know why the 7 part was crossed out.
Yeah, no
Where's that
cross.
on mine?
Yeah, I got a line through 7.
Yeah,
Mm,
so maybe that was just a typo.
I think that should stay, yeah.
Okay, so 7 stays.
8 we've been through.
Yeah, 9, I added the blue, that was from somebody else.
Yep. that's gonna be renumbered.
Yeah, so 9, 10, right, so 10 we got rid of,
11 and 12, so we gotta start with 13 as
so
being.
9, so 12 is really 10, right?
Yep.
13 becomes 11, 14 becomes 12, okay, so 10.
Yeah.
Oh, I did some work on this paragraph too. For the safety of our workers and visitors, and in order to create a uniform appearance of the cemetery, and to create a uniform appearance, comma, the Cemetery Commission is prohibiting the following items. Crushed stone, now metal stands, rods, hooks, that was from somebody else. You know, say those hangers or,
Yeah, big pot hangers and.
yeah, I mean, so, well, I was trying to decipher that. I was picturing, you know, the gentleman in Island Pond that had the bird feeders and stuff. So the bird feeders disappear, his metal
Sharpens
agway hanging hook falls over or gets trampled or vandalized.
Yeah.
And one of our guys goes over it in a mower, and this thing becomes a projectile.
It's gonna make
Yeah.
a mess of everything.
Yeah, or rips the lawnmower to shreds as it wraps around the
Right.
axle. All right, so that's where that came from. Metal stands, rods, hooks. Not and cans, it should be cans, glass and ceramics, because they shatter, break.
Yeah,
Lighting of any kind, and then we had already had fences, borders, curbing. Mylar balloons were added at the discussions with Amy at Conservation. Wind chimes, or any alcoholic beverages. And that, I think, kind of relates to cans and glass. I mean, would somebody
Yeah.
leave a nip there for somebody, a bottle of, bourbon for his
Yeah.
buddy that,
yeah, I think that's really important to put the alcoholic beverages, because seeing a lot more of them
yeah,
all the time.
okay. No signs, littered wood boards, statues of animals or the like. And that one, I should have parentheses that, because, I mean, somebody's got a concrete German Shepherd on Island Pond.
Yeah.
And then you see bunnies and turtles and.
Yeah.
So we're axing those. I mean, the family that's got the German Shepherd, 3 feet tall, are we gonna tell
Well-
them to get rid of it?
It's gotta kind of maintain with that
Yeah.
1 foot space around the headstones.
I think probably things that are already there, that nobody's complained about, I think we should kind of let sleeping dogs lie, cement
I
dogs
agree.
lie.
I agree, yeah.
Unless somebody's offended by it. And then we'd say, I'm sorry, but the new rules and regulations prohibit those. So if you
Well,
would,
so when you were on the bike path, walking past Island Pond, and Cindy and I always joke and go, oh, good, we're still not there. Because our spots are right there by the
Right.
trail. But as you look across ours on Harwich Ave or whatever it is, right behind is this space that's got the 6-inch picket fence and plastic flowers, and, I mean, it just really sticks out. I mean, I'm not gonna complain,
We have
but
to
I
address
just,
that.
I think that needs to be, do we
Right.
want uniformity for everybody else, or do we wait for somebody to complain and make noise, or?
yeah, I think the plastic things are going to just, little by little, disappear, whether people take them out or the cemetery department removes them. I think those things are gonna disappear little by little. And if people call and complain and say, oh my goodness, what happened to this? You know, I had such and such, I'm sorry, but those are not allowed.
Right.
You know, they may have been removed because
Well, I know
they're not,
a couple of streets over, there's another one where the family is constantly,
yes,
and I'm sympathetic, that's how they grieve, and
Right.
it was a teenager, I think.
right. And the young child has a lot of things, a lot of them do. And I think that the best way we can handle that is just to, case by case, somebody calls and says, you know, this is outrageous. I'm buried next to them and I really, I'm offended by that. Then we should talk to them.
Yeah,
I think, if we all agree on that, I think.
well, and I think in the tone that the 4 of us have.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. We had that problem with a small wooden sign with a gentleman's name on it. And I spoke with the lady several times, and I said, we'll look into it, we'll take care of it. I didn't see it was offensive, I didn't think it was offensive to anyone else, but it was to her.
Yeah.
And I talked to the young son, and he said, we just can't afford a memorial right now. So we found that he was a Mason, and actually the Masons bought him a memorial, which is really nice.
Oh, very
So
good.
sometimes those nice things do happen.
So there's this. Can't remember where I saw this. This is one of the, that's either at the North Harwich one.
Yes, I think so.
Is that it?
I think
Is
so.
that where I saw that, or is that
Pine Grove?
Pine Grove?
I'm not sure what the name is on it. Does it say?
Yeah. John, Schalb, maybe? Nazi is his nickname.
Oh, I'm
Born
making.
April, oh, it was my birthday. Born April 1st, 1968, and died January 15th something.
You're an April Fool's baby.
I am. Hey, it was Easter Sunday, so be careful.
It's starting to explain a lot.
Okay.
Okay, we just gotta renumber those.
Yeah, so 10, all right, so, but we're okay with the
Yeah.
way the new 10 is.
I
Yep.
think so.
All right, 13 is now 11, that's original. 14 is now 12, that's original. And that continues to the next page, which is just before C.
Which is markers, headstones, and what.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the cemetery commission liability thing should be up in the front part where we put cemetery commission?
Oh, that's where I knew I saw that. Yes, I think that should be where we just said, post-administration. Yeah, so right above where it says Harwich Cemetery Rules and Regs, right up and in between below fees.
Stick that there.
Yep, so I'll take care of that. Move to after admin. All right,
That whole C section,
I'm sorry, what?
that whole C section, 1
Yeah.
through 5, should move?
We need, no, with the cemetery commission liability.
Ju-
right?
In blue,
Oh, I'm sorry,
That
okay.
part.
yeah.
Misunderstood you.
I think that should be there.
Yeah, and what was the intent of the first one? Exceptions to, so we need some verbiage for that.
Where?
So originally, where we were gonna put cemetery commission here after admin, it was with regarding exceptions to burials, exceptions to the rules,
Rules and regulations.
yes, will be, have
Must
you
be
written
determined.
something, or?
Yeah,
If you think of it,
where did I?
ponder that and email me or text me, or,
Exceptions will be discussed on a
will
as-needed
be,
basis.
yeah, or will be determined by the cemetery commission. Yeah. Exception, well, how about just exceptions to these rules
And regulations,
and regulations will,
must be
Be
determined.
done on
must be
as-needed
brought
basis.
before the cemetery commission,
Must be approved
or must be
by the
approved.
administrator and cemetery commission.
Exceptions. Must be approved. Approved by CC, case by case. All right, I like that. Okay,
We're good up through C, and C we gotta work on with sizes, 'cause we had that whole thing about the mausoleum parts in there.
yeah, and really between the three of us and the video, this is the part I feel really lacking on. I don't know where we should be going, you know,
With marker
what are the
headstones.
sizes? I mean, I'm still confused at what Tommy was bringing up, and,
He said sometimes if if you got a two-spot, that's 8 feet, so the marker can be, the headstone can be 4 feet. That gives you 2 feet here, and if the next person does the same thing, that'll give you 4 feet there,
right,
which is just ease of movement. We're not blocking,
right,
like you don't feel like you're in a cow pasture, you're just getting herded in a certain direction.
yeah,
That, and then the other markers that are flat, I don't really see a big reason not to have, you put I don't want it straight concrete, but maybe we can go with 3, or give them 2 bigger ones, so you can put one half.
But I think with what we just talked about on the case-by-case basis,
That would be
I
under that.
think if we kind of design it the way Robin was leaning, but in that odd case, the
We can
4
make
veterans. Okay, well, when it comes up,
Right,
we don't want to
Yeah.
tie our hands,
right.
but I think that case by
I
case.
think that one statement covers us, any changes to the rules or regs are determined by the commission and the administrator. Same, I think, excuse me, if we added like number 9 on here for mausoleums, just put approval to be determined by the administrator and the commission. And then that kind of doesn't define mausoleums to be any specific size in the rules and regulations. It just says that it has to be determined, approved and determined by us.
And with the cemeteries, Kelly Cemetery, Evergreen, and there was one other one, she said.
Well, there's space in the back of Pine Grove.
Pine Grove.
Yeah, we can limit it to those 3 cemeteries, because
But
there's not much space in other ones.
We don't even need to add that, I don't think. If it's, mausoleums, the whole bit. Approval to be determined by the administration and the administrator and the commission.
In placement.
I think that covers it. If they go, oh, wow, where can we do it? This is our suggestion, these 3 places. It
So
doesn't
you can add
say you
9
cannot do it someplace.
Mausoleums.
Okay, and then mausoleum,
Just mausoleums, approval to be determined by the administrator and commission.
For appropriate site placement.
Yeah, even, kind of,
Yeah.
just says, we don't have anything specific to them yet, but you can talk to us about it, see what we can do. In other words, down the road, we can put specifics in, I think, in where they might go, if we want to put just specific cemeteries, but I don't think we limit it right now.
Yeah. Then I mentioned the green
Okay.
burials to Robin, and
Yeah,
we don't have the staff to even remotely start doing that
Right.
yet, so we'll just
right,
leave
so
that
that's,
out completely, don't even
Right.
put a space in it.
yeah.
I think last meeting she said, no, don't even hint.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And we'll
Because-
come across that later in the road if it becomes more of an issue.
okay.
So if you could add number 9 into that,
9 is mausoleums,
yep.
and then a generic statement. Okay,
And then if you could just print that out as what it would look like as rules, the general layout so far. I think then, when we get the active cemeteries, then we still go through some of the definitions. These definitions are,
yeah, I asked her to do that, I guess she got wrapped up.
yeah, because
Because-
there's a lot of definitions here.
Yeah,
Well, see, and that's something I thought she ought to do, because these are terms that when she is speaking with people, because I found them fascinating, but more from a ancestry
Curiosity type
and,
of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
but, I mean, we don't do crypts, and so,
Otherwise, I think it's pretty good. We just gotta work on some of the markers and stuff.
yeah.
all
Do we
right,
feel that we need to put those in, the rules and regs?
what, the definitions?
Yeah.
Well, I
A
mean,
lot
if-
of other places have
They do.
definitions.
Yep, no,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
what I'm just
against
saying,
it.
if she can get rid of the useless ones,
Right,
it's really,
Because you could put lot size is a one-person burial space, or a family plot is
well,
multiple
when we
lots.
define that, sure, and when we define that section, it's no big deal to copy it and put it under Ls for lot sizes, so if people don't see it in the rules, it's in the definitions. So then, one of the towns that frequently ask questions,
Yep.
I mean, these were-
Robin would know that because she gets
she
asked
gets
that
the
all time.
questions, okay,
Right.
so we're gonna have Robin do this with the definitions, and then, oh, I know what I wanted to do, I was thinking plantings.
that's in here somewhere,
Yeah, I saw that.
right? Yeah,
But it said,
but isn't it like within a certain,
Yeah.
I forget how many inches
All
from the,
plantings have to be
right, but
approved.
somebody had, it's a list of recommended.
Oh, I got you, sorry.
Yeah, Robin's got that somewhere,
She does,
I believe so.
I mean, there's part of me that didn't want it in there because, I mean, just so many, my parents' site over in Chatham. I mean, you can't even get to it now because they planted that, I can't remember the kind of fir tree it is.
Oh.
They're very small, but when they,
Yeah,
headstones are
Well, look at
disappearing,
the-
and it's the people behind them.
The dwarf Alberta spruces will get big.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. They're
It's
very
like a
fine,
dense-looking thing.
very dense, like you carved it with a knife. It's
Right.
this nice green cone. They're beautiful little trees, but
when
that's
they're little.
Josh.
Yeah. Rob, do you mind doing that?
oh, no, this is,
Thank you so
this
much.
is sitting at the computer and it's edit,
Right.
copy, paste and,
Exactly.
Email me, call me, or whatever, and we can go over some other stuff. And
yeah, I'll get it cleaned up. And when I'm only cleaning it up through, what did we say?
through the markers and monuments, because we haven't really gone through all of that.
Yeah, and I'll move this,
Move that up.
the blue paragraph.
Now, should the active cemeteries be listed at the end or towards the beginning so people know what cemeteries we're working on?
What do you think about that?
Hmm.
Cemetery locations?
Mhm.
That might be better off up in the beginning under,
Perhaps after the administration, I'm not saying
and
where.
after our commission statement and stuff like that.
I could do it just before rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then people know what they're looking at
Right.
for,
The reason I like the planting idea is because of, I mean, eventually somebody's gonna go into the preservation of marceling,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I mean, I'm not a, am I still on tape? I am not a invasive species guy. We're all invasive species on Cape Cod. Honeybees are invasive species, or they're imported, they're not native, so it's, but I just think it'd be good to have a list. Recommended permanent plantings, and then I'll reference the paragraph that says should be
non-invasive,
approved by,
the commission.
yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's not in the rules and regulations, even if it's a handout that Robin gives new
Yeah.
lot owners,
Yeah,
you know, it suggests
Just like
something
the
like that.
layout she's gonna do.
Right.
Monument layouts.
Okay.
yeah, and then eventually we could, actually, I may do that, I may do a paragraph reserved for where we map, you know, maps of each cemetery
Mhm.
with the streets as a
I've
reference.
been trying to get that, so we walk around and we see an issue, we can mark a map. Well, that's,
Yeah, that's what we really need when we do the veterans flags.
yeah.
Yeah,
John has some old, huge sheets to roll up.
that's what Robin sent me, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
She sent me some oh, are we done? Oh, so let's move to adjourn
Move to adjourn?
at
Yep.
11:25.
Seconded and approved.
Thank you, Caleb. Poor Caleb be over there, tape running for